I started my mission in Latvia and served there in the dead of winter. And some Baltic missionaries, they get to serve out in like really rural areas of the Baltics. I was only in the cities, so I only know the big city of the Baltics. My three areas were all in the capital cities of the Baltics. So my first area was Riga, Latvia. About 1 million people live there. That's the capital of Latvia. My next area was Vilnius, Lithuania. Again, the capital city, big city there. Third area was Tallinn, Estonia, the capital of Estonia. So the cities are incredible there. They are beautiful. Each city, some similarities between the three countries I served in. In each capital city, they have a part of town called Old Town. And each one kind of has its unique flavor, but the similarity is that all of these old town parts of town were built hundreds of years ago, if not thousands of years ago. And so they are old, and you get to see history alive right there. There's still people living, working in these buildings, some of them in castles. There's like castles that people work in. You can't say ever here that you work in a castle, and you can over there. There's cobblestone streets, that were built, 500, 600 years ago, 700 years ago. 3 times the age of our country, were built, back then. And so getting to go through Old Town was one of those are the best P-Day activities. You get to walk around Old Town and you get to be a tourist for a couple hours, and I've got some great pictures of all these old buildings and stuff. Vilnius, Lithuania, I love because of, again, the castles. They had the most castles. So even when you go into the old town, so there's the new part of the city, like the downtown area, metropolitan, that kind of surrounds it. And then the center, they built it around the kind of the old town area. And you go there, and again, there's just like castles and cobblestone streets. And we heard about a castle, like an actual full castle that's just a few miles away, and you had to take a little bus to get out there. So at P-Day, we made sure to get everything done on time, and we went out there for a few hours. It's called Trakai. If you ever get a chance to serve in Vilnius, Lithuania, you got to go to Trakai. It is the coolest place ever. So in Vilnius, Lithuania, you got to go to Trakai, or Trakai, I guess, as you'd say it. And and it's the castle just a few miles away from Vilnius, and it is so cool. Like, you get to go in, you cross like a moat bridge, like a drawbridge going into the castle. You get to go up in the towers, the walls, the turrets around the castle. They have all these cool like medieval chambers and like torture devices in there, and if you're lucky, I never got to see this. I was a little jealous, but some missionaries, they just happened to go when they had night fighting days. They have real life jousting, real life like duels with knights in full scale armor, broadswords, giant double-headed axes, pikes, just the works. And it was like you literally time traveled like 2,000 years ago, and it was just incredible. Like, oh man, just all this cool stuff, knights fighting. And so just going to step back into history was a really cool part of Vilnius, Lithuania. Also something about Vilnius and this is something Vilnius, I really like Lithuania because probably for this reason, a little more than the other countries. I like all of them equally, but the food though, there's a lot of Turkish immigrants that came to Lithuania. For some reason, they haven't got quite as far north as Latvia or Estonia yet, but down there they have something called kebabs. And it's just like this giant lamb meat burrito, and it is incredible. And they have so many kebab shops in Vilnius. You can do a new one each week if you want for a transfer, and you'll find a different one each time. And it was just the most delicious thing ever. And poor Estonia and poor Latvia don't have kebabs, and it was sad leaving Lithuania. I was going to miss kebabs. So, but and traditionally the people in Lithuania were really cool, and they're actually really, really nice to talk to, really easy to talk to. Again, they had a lot of big touristy sections of town that we tried to avoid, because if you were to contact there and proselyte there, there's really wrong with doing it, but you'll just find a lot of tourists who are going to leave the next day. And if you like, if you like generating lots of referrals for different missionaries, and that's fine. You can proselyte there and then pass their information along. But again, we just find tons of tourists. But again, there's some really cool sights to see around that area, and the missionary apartment used to be on the main downtown street in Vilnius, and so it was really cool. We got to go out every day and see all these people and see these cool sights, just hustling and bustling just right around our apartment. Something else all three of the countries have are the pastries. Oh my goodness, you have to get the pastries. They are the best thing ever. And in Lithuania, they were called bondelas, and they were just the most amazing things ever. And we lived right next to a pastry shop. It was so bad. I don't know why why they chose that apartment there, because every morning, we'd go run or exercise, and then we'd negate everything we did by going and getting bondelas and eating these fatty, delicious pastries. And so they were incredible, and they had like caramel ones, chocolate ones. Oh, it was so good. So something to look forward to, the kebabs and the pastries in Lithuania. And the pastries in Latvia are called maizytes, and they are also delicious. They're a little on a smaller scale. It's funny, they're like little miniature. Riga, I found to be a little colder, not as friendly kind of as Vilnius. And I'm not sure if that's because maybe it's a bigger city, and than Vilnius was. Vilnius is maybe, yeah, it wasn't even close to being the size of Riga. It was still a big city, a major city. But Riga was a lot bigger, and it felt like a bigger city. It was just a little more, everyone was a little more busy, didn't have time to talk, didn't want to talk to you, stuff like that. But Riga looks a lot different than Vilnius, too. It's amazing. I mean, the two countries are right there, and they're so small. But, Vilnius, you have, again, like the castles and a lot of bright-looking things. And then you go to Riga, and they have a lot of Gothic architecture, lots of cool statues and gargoyles and stuff like that. And they have this incredible, the people over there, the Latvians over there hate it because it kind of stands as a symbol of the Soviet Union, but they have this incredible World War II monument, just these massive monoliths built out of stone that are just these incredible, monuments to the Great War. They call it of World War II, and to the victory, over Germany. And I mean, that was really cool to see. I mean, I've never seen anything like that here in America. I mean, we have like stuff like the Washington Monument, but to just have this giant stone monument in the middle of a park, just for this war. I mean, it was just incredible. And it's just things like that you don't get to see here in the United States. That would be so incredible. And that war monument I was talking about is on the other side of the river in the Emonte area. So there's the Riga Center area, which is on one side of the river. And that's the bustling metropolis area. Then you have the Emonte side, which is a little quieter, a little nicer. And the Emonte side of the river is very, very quaint. You're still in the big city, so you still have all the public transportation stuff, but it just feels smaller, and it feels a lot calmer. And people there are nicer and calmer and just living their life. But Riga again has the other side of Riga has that bustling kind of feel to it. So, and then Estonia was way different than both of those. The people there. So Estonian, just the language itself, is extremely different than Latvian and Lithuanian, because the Estonian language gets its roots from a more Nordic route. So from northern, their language is more related to like Denmark, Norway, Sweden, countries like that, Finland especially. It's like the sister language to Finnish, which makes it also very difficult to learn. I heard from a lot of the Estonian missionaries. I got lucky, but at the same time, they speak way differently than anything you've ever heard, and it sounds very different from either Latvian or Lithuanian, and they kind of act differently too. Actually, people are a lot more willing to talk to you sometimes in Estonian. Doesn't mean they're more willing to have you teach them, but there are lots of Estonians who are way willing to just talk to you about anything and have a chat with you. A lot of atheism, though, in Estonia. A little more than I saw than in Latvia and Lithuania. So you got to kind of be prepared for that. Because in Lithuania, there's a huge Catholic influence there. They all have very big religious kind of differences. Again, Lithuania, very big Catholic influence. So again, they have a concept of God and Jesus Christ, but it can be a little different than what our concept can be. But again, at least they have that understanding. Latvia, they're rooted very in the Lutheran Church. And Martin Luther and a few other kind of Protestant churches. And so again, they're different, but yet they both Latvia and Lithuania have a kind of a background in God and Jesus Christ. And Estonia also had a big, Protestant church influence, but now it just seems like the people are very, very much atheistic, and which is, I feel like they kind of identify more with, again, the Nordic region, of Norway, Sweden, Finland, and just, again, being like atheist and not really having a concept of God, and more of just like a universal power kind of thing. And so sometimes it's a little harder to teach people in Estonia. But again, Russians, wherever you go, and again, that's a whole other thing, they're all joined to the Pravoslavny Church, or in English, the Russian Orthodox Church. And so that's basically like it's very similar to the Catholic Church in that it's been around for thousands of years and has these deep set traditions and has these giant beautiful cathedrals. That's another thing. When you get up to Estonia and Latvia and Lithuania too, they have beautiful, beautiful Russian Orthodox churches that look like something you'd see in a movie, and they're just incredible. You feel like you're in Russia when you go there. They have the big onion domes, not like in Moscow, the big St. Peter's cathedral, but they look really cool nonetheless, and they have their own feel to them. But so Russians do have a concept again of God and Jesus Christ, but it's very more of like a tradition thing rather than an act of faith. So they know that they hold very dearly to these traditions they have of being, Pravoslavny and Russian Orthodox and the tradition of my fathers, But whereas in our church, it's more centered on having your own testimony, your own faith, and less about being the tradition of your fathers or something like that. So it can be difficult a lot of time to try and get them to break away from those traditions. But again, a good focus for us was to have just like, we're not trying to destroy everything you love or believe, but we're just trying to add to that and add a greater perspective that comes from, the LDS Church and comes from the gospel of Jesus Christ. So